Thank you so much. I would like us to look at the Swedish example. I don't have a PowerPoint. I got asked yesterday to talk today. But anyway, in Sweden we have 150,000 people with African diaspora background in a population of 9 million. We have forgotten our past when it comes to the slave trade. We don't have any survivors from this time. But Sweden had 200 years of slave trade, and the Swedish iron made the cuffs for the boats that were spread around the world. And this was the biggest export for our country. So we are definitely a country that benefited from the slave trade. I have worked as a political expert at the Department of Justice in Sweden. I am South African Swedish, as some of you have heard already. And the last 5 years I have been really looking at the issue of the African diaspora in Sweden. We have a rise in African diaspora movements right now in Sweden, but we are also facing a counteraction. As I told you, when it comes to internal othering, but also from actually the liberal parties that don't see this as a racist issue at all. So therefore I would say that that conscious movement in Sweden is definitely controversial. But the racism is still growing, no matter what they say. The movie, I will actually show a trailer, because I know that not everyone here has had a chance to see the movie, which I made with my brother who's sitting over there. And I could just give you a short background when it comes to the movie. Why did we make a movie about, because it's about hate crime in Sweden, and how it's impacting on the black diaspora, and especially young men. I was asked, actually by a white man, why did you make a film about men? Because you're a woman. And I don't know if any male filmmakers are in the room. I would love to know if you were asked the same question when you had a lady as the main character. This is one of the problems I face also as a woman. Why are you so interested in talking about young 17-year-olds and their situation in Sweden? Well, I have a brother, and I'm a human being, and I see what's happening around me. That's the answer I give. And I also see people getting very hurt by the racism in Sweden. I am myself a victim of that when I grew up. And doing this kind of projects made me realize that this has to become a political issue. And we who work in culture have to take our responsibility to raise it as a topic for debate and for discussion, and also as a way to make our voices heard. Otherwise, who will talk for us about our past and our presence? We have to do that ourselves. That's definitely something that's very important for me. Before I show the trailer, it actually started as a book. The first secondary high school book for Swedish youth that talk about Swedish slave trade. This is nothing that you learn in school. And we did this project together with 25 youth from the diaspora to talk about identity, childhoods. How was it growing up in Africa coming here? Or how was it growing up in Sweden? We found also that these two groups don't talk to each other. The ones that are born in Sweden and the ones that came as refugees. This was actually a project that brought them together to realize that we have a lot in common. This was actually the first project that I knew about anyway, that did this. Their stories are very compelling and tragic. But they also have a lot of hopes and dreams, like we all do. So they talk about their childhood, and I think something that they taught me is that racism starts when you are very young. When you are 3, 4 years old, you learn the N-word very young. You hear it from a friend or somebody says it anyway, and then suddenly your parents and you have to relate to it. And this is also a fact. How do we as parents, as friends, because we're all victims in that sense. We have to help the young people understand, the young children understand. And it's very sad when you have to do that when you're 4 years old, to have to learn this. And many of the youth told this story. This happened when I was 4. And what actually happens also is that the families that have white children, and they don't want them to play with the black children. And so they don't bond as young. So this film is also about that. How do we give these young people the chance to become friends with each other? And while working with the book, we realized that the history, we have to address this in schools, and we have to ask the right questions. How has Swedish slave trade contributed to the Swedish economy? Because this is a non-question in Sweden for sure. And then we actually made a hip-hop opera, because me and my brother are also musicians, and we wanted to show the youth that what they wrote about living in Sweden, actually could become music. So we went to the Royal Music School, and as artists ourselves, we started also making music together with them. And the music schools, the classical music school, made opera music of their lyrics, their current lyrics. So it became Sweden's first hip-hop opera. It wasn't maybe the first intention, but that's what happened. That's what we created. And then, by chance, we did not have the opportunity to show it at other operas. All the other operas said, no, we're not interested in what you have to do. We're not interested in this work. So we applied for money to make a documentary. And it became a film. And that's the film that I'm going to show a clip for you now. The trailer, I should say though, some lines are in Swedish, so I would love to just translate them for you. The film is depicting the current school system in Sweden from a young Afro-Swedish man's perspective. And where he falls asleep and suddenly wakes up to a new reality. So it's a mix between a dream world and the real world to discuss what is the truth, how do we find the truth, and what is our responsibility when we know the truth. I should also say that a former Nazi became a part of this project, also by chance actually. We asked him to be one of the extras. And he but asked me very good questions. He said, well, who's going to see this film? And I said, well, it's for young people, it's for the schools. But then he said, but this is a film everyone should see. And I should put this in relation that when I asked other people, they were like, yeah, what am I wearing? What's the makeup going to be? He was asking me more profound questions. And then me and my brother were taking him home that day. And he was sitting in the back of the car, and then it was this silence in the car, and he said, if you want me to be in this movie, there is something you need to know about me. And I was so, I didn't know what to say. And then he explained his life. And he said, I was a former Nazi. I live in this town now because I'm under death threat. I can't go back to my city. This is my story. Do you still want me? So I had a choice. And I know Mike looked at me and thinking, what's she gonna say? And I realized, actually by also being threatened by Nazis myself, that I had a fear. Because I have been threatened by Nazis also. But then I realized now I have an opportunity to make a bridge that has never happened before, at least in my life. And I decided to say to him, I think what you should definitely be in the movie. We should do this together. So he also helped us with the characters that you saw yesterday. And I understood the pain from the other side of the fence, the pain of the perpetrator. What happens when we have to listen to that story too. He was actually one person I would have loved to bring here. Because he has also a message to, I think, Germany. And I should say, his story is very sad, but he's saying there is people that feed on other people's pain in the Nazi movement, and so he's not saying they are all victims. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But we also have to listen to those who actually has taken that bold step and left that world and paid a very, very high price. Okay. I'm going to start the movie, I think. The lines in the trailer is the teacher starts talking about a person called Christina, the Queen Christine. She approves Swedish slave trade, but this is nothing you learn in school. So the teacher starts going, yep, yep, yep. And then she's going, talking about a scientist called Carl von Linné, who actually was one of the founders of racist theory in Europe. And this is something we don't know either. And then when the teacher starts talking about him, one of the students the antagonist in the movie says, didn't he divide people into races? And then everybody starts, yeah, that's the lines. The rest is for your pleasure to listen. I hope it works.
Drottning Kristina. Hon blev drottning redan vid 6 års ålder på grund av sin faders död. Här har vi då Carl von Linné, Sveriges mest välkända vetenskapsman.
Delade han upp människor i raser också? Så.
And I just wanted to also add that in Sweden now the hate crime has risen to 70% that are that due to race or skin color or ethnicity that are killed or abused, and it compared to 12% when it comes to homophobia. And in Sweden they are giving a lot of money to work against homophobia, but they're not even addressing this problem. So this is what we wanted to do with this movie, to show how hate crime is also, it has to do with more than just the people involved. It's a bit like incest or sexual abuse or rape. Sometimes there are other people knowing that this will happen. So we also wanted to empower the teachers to see what signals are the youth giving that lead to hate crime, that lead to death. Thank you so much.